So last week we started looking at VB.NET programming structure. We started looking at VB.NET programming structure, looked at simple code in VB.NET and how um, the various components of a VB.NET code or a program. We talked about some of the um, or we looked at first the namespace. We talked about the fact that a VB.NET program should have a namespace. There should be a model or a class. There should be a main function or a main procedure. It can have one or more procedures. There should be statements and expressions, okay, and also comments. So we talked about all that last week. The videos have been made available. And I believe you are watching them and practicing. Ideally, today we should have had a face-to-face meeting, but unfortunately, exams, I'm told, is ending today. So hopefully from next week, the lab will be available for our face-to-face meeting. Um, Hopefully the software will be installed before we meet next Friday. Okay, so the quiz will come off next Friday, okay, as mentioned. All right, so want to continue from where we left off last week. I had some concerns about uh, the IDE. Okay, so one of the videos I think I mentioned, or we went to the Visual Studio site, and I mentioned how you can download it. When you download it directly from the site, in the latest version they have there, it's a few megabytes. I think it's less than 100 megabytes. But in the process of installing, okay, you need internet access to install the application, which will take some more gig. But in installing it, you have to uncheck some of the things. If you check all the components it's giving you, it's going to take a lot of time. So you actually install the things you need. If it's you are using it for only VB.NET programming, then just make sure you have only that feature selected together with the .NET framework, okay, so that you have it installed. But if you are going to use it for Python, C Sharp, and other programming languages, that is when it becomes bulky and it takes a lot of space and a lot of data to install. Okay. By the way, next week when we meet face to face, I'll make available this version as well. That's the 2010 Ultimate version, so that those of you with laptops can also have it installed if you are having struggles with the online version. Okay. All right. So today we want to look at operators. Yeah, I think last week we stopped on the operators. We ended here. So we want to continue from there. And then we look at the control structures when it comes to VB.NET. Okay, so VB.NET has several operators, okay, some of which are not the operators we know from the C++ and then the Java class that we had. Okay, so they have the arithmetic operators, they have the comparison operators, they have the bits wise, and then the logical operators, they have the bit shift operators, they have assignment operators, We have the concatenation operators and the miscellaneous operators. Okay. Now um, the arithmetic operators are the basic mathematical operators that we know and we use every time. However, with VB.NET, they have a few other additions. Okay, a few other additions to it. For instance, first over here we have the caret symbol, okay, which is used to find the power, okay, of another value. Then we have the addition, subtraction, multiplication, and then the division has two. You have the forward slash, which is used to return, is used for division, okay, but it returns floating point numbers. Okay, so anytime you use the forward slash, let's say you are doing 2 divided by 5. Okay, 5 forward slash 2. Okay, 5 forward slash 2 using this operator, it returns floating point value. So this will give you 2.5. Okay. Then we have the integer division, that's the backslash. So if you do 5 backslash 2, this will return an integer result. Okay, that is 2. Okay. So that is how the the forward slash and the backslash, that's the integer operator, integer division operator, and then the division operator works. Then we have the mode. Okay, so it goes by using the word mode. Okay, unlike in Java and C++, we would have used the percentage sign. Okay, but in this context, we use the word mode. Okay, and it's written in this form. Then we move to the comparison operators. Okay, these comparison operators, we all know from previous programming languages we've treated that they are used to mainly handle used to mainly handle um, the control structures. That's the if statement, the if else statement, and then the loops. Okay, so we have the equality sign or equal to. Okay, whereas in Java and C++, we would have used the double equal to represent it. Okay, but in VB.NET, it's the same single equal to sign, what we know as the assignment operator. But this one is going to check whether two numbers are equal or two operands are equal, as we can see here. Then we have the not equal to, okay, not equality. So we would have seen in C++ and Java as the exclamation, which is the not, and then this, okay. So in VB.NET is the less than and the greater than altogether for non-equality. Then we have the greater than sign, we have the less than, we have the greater than or equal to, we have less than or equal to, and then we have what we call the is operator. The is operator is used to validate whether two operand objects, okay, that's two operand or two object references, okay, are of the same variable or are of the same value. Okay, so it will return the result either true or false. If they are the same, it will be true, otherwise false. And we have the is not operator. The is not operator is similar to the is operator. Okay, so the is not operator, if we say object one is not object two, it will return true if those two objects are different. Okay, if they are different, to return the value true. Then we have the like operator. Okay, so it's used to check pattern expression of a string variable. Okay, pattern expression of a string variable. So if you have a string, okay, and you say like the like operator, like pattern, this will be if that pattern matches a string, then it will return a true response. All right, then we have the logical and the bitwise operators. Logical and bitwise operators. Now, the logical operators, at least from Java and C++, we know of the and, the or, and then the not, the basic ones. We know of them. So we know that the and is the double ampersand. Okay. That's when we are doing C++. The or is this, the not is the exclamation. Okay. But in VB.NET, we write the word starting with a capital letter. So and, or, and not. Okay. So the and operator, as we know, both expressions, that's A and B, has to be true for the and to be true. Okay, both operands are supposed to be true for the result to be true. Whereas with the or, at least one operand should be true for both of them to be true. Okay, at least one has to be true. Then we have the not. So if you say not A, it means that what we are negating the value of A. So if A is true and we say not A, then it means A is false. Then we have the XOR operator, that's the exclusive OR operator, which is represents when both expressions are true or false, the result is true. Otherwise, the result is false. Okay. Then we have the and also. We have the and also. Yeah. The and also operator, which is a logical and operator that performs a short circuit operation on variables. That's if the operand is true, the result is true, else the result is false. Okay, so if both are true, the result is true, else it is false. Then or else. Okay. Also there, then it's false and then it's true. So it's false is used to determine whether an expression is false. It's true is used to determine whether an expression is true. Okay, so those are the bitwise and then the logical operators. Now let's come to the bit shift operators. Now take note of the way these operators are written. Okay, the AND operator, which is the logical operator, is in this form. Okay, and then the bitwise operator is all in block letters, okay, or capital letters. Now, how different is this from the logical from the bit shift operators? Now, the bit shift operators here deals with what we call binary values. Okay, binary values. So the bit shift operators are used to copy the common binary bits in the results if the bits exist in both operands. Okay, we look at some examples shortly. And then the OR also does same. Okay, so I'll quickly switch to the other documents that I want us to use. That's the notes for VB note for professional. And then we will take some examples from there. Okay. So let's just do the bits. All right, let's continue from here. We'll come back to that's our lecture notes. Okay. Okay, let's just finish this and then we can go there and see some more examples. So for instance, if we are told to find maybe five and let's say 2, okay, what will be the answer? 5 and 2. Now this and is the bit shift operator here. Okay, 5 and 2. Now, what it simply means is that the value of 5 and 2 should be written in binary form. Okay, should be written in binary form. Now, who can tell me the binary equivalent of 5? 5 in binary, what will it be?
One
5 in 1. Yes, who is speaking?
011.
Yes, guy.
011.
101.
Yes, Ruben, your hand is up.
101. 101, sir.
101. Okay.
Yes.
0101.
Okay. Then what about 2?
10.
10.
2 will be what?
10.
10.
1 and then 0. Okay. So let's just assume that here is also 0. Okay. So you have something like this, and you are going to use the AND operator on it. Okay. So what it does is, first you have to convert the values to binary. That's the bit shift. And then you use the AND on it. Okay. So how does it work? So 1 here is true, and then 0 is false. Okay, so if you say 0 and 1, what will that give you?
0.
0 and 1 will give you 0.
0. Yeah.
Yes, okay, because for it to be 1, both values have to be true.
Yeah.
Okay, both values have to be true. Okay, so this will give you 0. Then 0 and 1 again will also give you 0. Then 0 and 1 will also give you 0. Okay, so the bit shift operator will give us this value. Okay, because of the use of what? The AND. Okay. So if we want to say 5, sorry, 5 or, please pardon my handwriting it. 5 or 2. What do you think the answer will be?
So the answer will be 111.
111, yes.
Yeah.
Okay. So within that context, if you are using the or, it means that at least one should be true for the expression to be true.
Yeah.
Okay. So that will give us 111. So that's how the bit shift operator works. Okay. Then we have the assignment operator. The assignment operator. So we have the plus, we have the equal to, which is used to assign a value to a variable. Then we have the add and assignment operator. Okay, add an assignment operator. So if you say x plus equals 5, all it means is that you are just saying x is equal to x plus 5. Okay, we know this from Java and C++. The same applies to the subtraction and assignment, multiplication and assignment, division and assignment operators. They also work in the same form. Okay, so it's just dividing the value by it. Then the caret also works the same. So in this context, it's just saying that x is x raised to the power p. Okay. Then here there's a little mistake. Here has to be /, here has to be \. It's showing as minus. And then we have the and, the ampersand. Now the ampersand is used for concatenation. That together with the plus. Okay, we'll go to the other document and then see more examples. So it's for concatenation. Okay. Now the ampersand symbol is used to bind 2 or more operands. Okay. Furthermore, a non-string operand can also be concatenated with a string operand. Take note of this. But in that case, option there's a straight option on that. Okay. But all it's saying is that you can use the ampersand to concatenate or combine 2 operands. Like we see here, well and come. Okay, with the ampersand will give us what? Welcome. And then the same with the plus, the addition operator. It's used to add or concatenate 2 or more, 2 numbers or string. Okay, 2 numbers or string. Then we have this one, which is the ampersand and the assignment operator, which is used to concatenate string assignments. Okay, so if we say string ampersand name, that means there's a string value here, which is being concatenated with the name. And then finally, we have the miscellaneous operators. These operators have various ways of working, most especially when you are developing application mostly with the Windows form, or you want to see a window or a dialog box or a message box pop up. Okay, that's when you use most of these operators. So we have the wait operator, which is used in an ampersand to suspend the execution of an asynchronous method or a lambda expression until the awaited task completes. Okay, so it's a wait expression. Okay, it waits for a task to be completed before it returns back to that particular method. Then we have address of, which is used to provide the reference address of a procedure. So we have an event handler here, that's the add handler. Okay, so this can be used to get the address of the reference address of that particular handler procedure. Then the get type. So the get type is used to retrieve the type of the specified object. In addition, retrieve object type, provide various information such as methods, properties, and events. Then we have the function expression. Okay, so function expression can be written like this. So it's a function, all right, but with an expression. Okay, with an expression. And then we have the if operator, which is used for short circuit evaluation of conditional statements. So that is to say that your if statement can be written inside your console.write line. Last week we saw the console.write line. You can write an if statement inside the console.write line. That's to say that if A is less than, we've deemed A to be -4. Okay, A to be -4. So we are saying that if A is less than or equal to 0, okay, then what? It is positive. Sorry, it's greater than or equal to 0, then it's positive, else it is negative. So take note of how this expression is written. Okay, that's another way in which you can write your if-else statement, not necessarily writing it in full. We'll look at it, the control structure shortly. All right, so VB.NET also has its operator precedence, okay, and associativity. I've taught you this before. So operator precedence, just to say that some operators have higher precedence or higher priority than other operators. So in all these operators, the one with the highest priority is the wait operator. Okay, that means that the wait operator is very potent, has a higher priority. So if it says wait, the wait operator, if it says a method should wait, it has to wait, okay, for a while before execution continues. Then followed by the exponential operator, that's a caret. Then the unary identity or the negation operator, that's the positive and the negative. Then we have multiplication, floating point, division. Now the floating point division, take note, has a higher precedence than the integer division. Take note, okay? It has a higher precedence than the integer division. Then followed by mode, okay? But in C++, you realize that mode, division, and multiplication has the same precedence, okay? So all these programming language have a unique syntax or grammar that it works with. Okay, so these are things that, like I keep saying, as computer science student, you need to know, because you do a course top-up level known as compiler design. Okay, and compiler design handles how some of these operations are performed behind the scene. Okay, when you are writing a program. Okay, so you can tell that this programming language has some operators. This other programming language has different kind of operators. Their order of precedence is different from this other programming language. Why is it so? Because there's a grammar or there's a syntax, there's a rule behind that particular language. Okay. Then we have the addition and subtraction, the bit shift arithmetic operators, the comparison operators, and so on. Okay. All right. There's an example here. Let's go back to the notes for professionals, and then we'll come back and try out this example. All right. So over here, chapter 4 talks about operators. Okay, starting with the string operators. String concatenation. Concatenation simply means that you are combining two or more strings into a single variable. Okay, so it uses the ampersand symbol to perform that concatenation. Now, as you can see, it declared dim1 as a string, and that value is hello. Then 2 also as a string, and that value is there. Okay. So the result when you do 1 ampersand 2 will give you what? Hello there. Hello there. Now take note, after the hello, there was a space here before the double quotes. And then the there also, I think there's a space there. Okay, if you don't do it that way, what will happen is that to put the two words together without a space. So because there's a space, that space has to be respected based on the syntax. Okay. Then another example here, it said dim results as string. Okay, dim results as string. And the string here, it says 2. That's this 2. This 2 here is a string. Okay. And this one here is a number. So it says dim as string, result as string. Okay. So it's going to make it 2 and then 10. It's going to put the 2 together. So whilst this is a string, and then the 10 here is a number, it will put the 2 together and it will make it what? A string with a double quote. Okay. Now it's giving some instruction here. It says, don't do this. It said, while this is possible, in the simple cases, use a plus symbol to do string concatenation. In most cases, whilst in the simplest of cases, to use the plus symbol to do string concatenation, you should never do this. If one side of the plus symbol is not a string, take note. If one side of the plus symbol is not a string, when the option string is off, the behavior becomes intuitive. And when the option string is on, it will produce a compiler error. Okay. So for instance, in this scenario, yes, you are concatenating, okay, but based on the caveat given here, this can lead to an error, okay, based on the function or the operation the plus symbol is doing. Okay, you could see the plus symbol as adding a letter or a string, a character to, and then a number, which usually is not possible. Okay, it's not usually possible. But if you have it as a string and a string, or a number and a number, then you can go ahead with the plus. Okay, but ideally the ampersand should resolve all these issues. Okay. So it's given the scenarios over here, as you can see. So the first one with the plus, it gives 12. The second one, so this is a string, is given 210. Okay, is given a double. However, in this context, you have 2G as a string and then plus. Okay, because of the G here, it's going to give us a runtime error. Runtime error. Please, are you following?
Yes, sir.
Yes, sir.
Okay.
Yes, please.
All right. So over here, it
Okay.
talks about some of the operators we just talked about.
Sir, please, can I ask a question?
Yes, please.
With please, can you come down small? With where the ampersand is, yes. We saw the first 2 plus 10 to be resulting in 12. And the same 2 plus 10 is resulting in 210. Please, why?
Can you see it very clearly?
Yes, please.
This 2 here is a string. This is a number. Okay. So
Okay.
at a point where the operator is performing an addition, okay, it's going to add this 2 because even though this is a string, in this context, it has its ASCII value. Remember this word from level 100, right? A standard, okay? And this ASCII value points to the value 2, okay? So it's going to add it to, this is a string, by the way, because of the double quotes.
Okay.
Okay, this is also a number or an integer value. So it's going to add it to the integer value to get 12. Now the second one, this is a string, and this is also a string. Okay, so at this
Okay.
point, it is not performing the addition operation, but it's performing the concatenation operation, where it is putting these 2 strings together.
Oh, okay. Okay.
You get it?
Yes, I get it.
But the
Thank you.
last context is a string with a character
variable.
or a letter value.
Okay.
Okay, an alphabet there. So that one will result in an error. But
Okay.
to avoid this being an error, if you want to put these 2 together, then the ampersand will
Should
be the
work.
required option if you want to concatenate these 2.
Okay, sir.
Okay, so over here it's talking about the additions and the arithmetic operators. Okay, so if you remember the example I did earlier, I said that the left value is 2, the left value is 5, the right value is 2. Okay, so if you go down and you are using the integer division, like the example we saw, if the left value is 5, left division, right value is 2, it gives us what? 2, because performing an integer division. Even though we know that the value will be 2.5. Okay, this 5 here is cancelled. It doesn't, how do we say, raise it to the nearest whole number by making it 3. Okay, it eliminates that value in that order. Then we have the assignment operator, which we've talked about. Then the comparison operator, not equal to. Then the bitwise operator. So the bitwise operator, 3 and 5. So 3 and 5, 3 will be 0, 0, 1. And then 5 is 0, 1, 0. If you use the and operator on it. 1 and 1 will give you 1. 0 and 1 will give you 0. And then 0 and 1. 1 and 0 will give you 0. 0 and 1 will give you. Okay. So that was what we were talking about earlier. Okay. So let's try out this code. I don't know. Maybe I should leave the codes out so that when we meet in class, we'll do it. What do you think?
Yes, sir.
Yes, sir.
Okay.
Yes, sir. Yes, sir.
So that we'll go through the theoretical parts. And then when we meet in class, we'll look at the codes. We'll try out the codes in class. All right. So I'll
Okay.
skip and then go to
Yeah.
the topic on control structures. Control structures. So this one, by next week or next 2 weeks, we would have finished the theory part. We'll just be left with examples because it's basically the same concept. Okay, that's how come I'm going through it quickly. All right, so we have the control statements, okay, or what we call control structures. We have the conditional or decision control structures. So VB.NET or in Java and Python, we know of the if statement, if else, and then the switch case. Now in VB.NET, we have the if then, okay, the if then statement. Then we have the if then else statement. Then we have if then else if. Okay. Then we have select case. So instead of the switch case, VB.NET uses the keyword select case. Please, are we all here?
Yes, sir.
Yes, sir.
Yes, sir.
Yes, sir.
So it uses select case. And then the if has then, if then else, if then else if, and then the select
sir.
case. Okay. So let's look at how this works in the code, how to just implement them. I'll just take one example to explain it. So in this example, we introduce the model, then our sub main, that's our main method. Then we have a comment here. We have our comment here. Okay, why is this a comment? Because of this single quote showing there. Then here we declare two numbers or two variables. Number 1 and then number 2 as integer. Okay. And then we use console.writeLine and say that what? Enter any two numbers. And we learned from last week that if you want to enter a number, we use readLine to accept the input. So number 1, which was declared here, okay, is equal to console.readLine. That means that it should accept the input and store it in number 1. Then number 2 here, okay, also what? Console.readLine to accept the user's input. Then we come to our conditional statement. That's the if. Now pay attention to the syntax. We use the keyword what? If. Okay. This time you don't need brackets and all that. You just say if number 1, okay, is less than, is greater than number 2, then, okay, so you are saying that if, and then you specify the condition. Specify the condition. Then after the condition, you say then, okay, then, so if the condition is true, then what do? Execute what? The statement. Then after that, you come and end your if. End if, very necessary. Okay. So your if the condition come, then you execute the statement if the condition is true. Then after that, you end if. Okay. So that is what is happening over here. So if number 1 is greater than number 2, then console.writeLine, it should what? Print out what? The first number is greater than the second number. Okay. Then it comes to introduce another if else, another if statement again, and says that if number 1 is less than number 2, then it should say, well, the second number is greater than the first number, and then end if. Okay, so we know of the read key just to hold the screen. You end the sub and the model. Is that understood?
No, sir, you worry.
Yes. Yes, sir. Yes, sir.
Sir, please come again. Sir, please
Yeah,
come
please
again.
come again.
Please come again.
All right. Let me see if there's another example in the professionals document. So what I'm trying to say is that this is the syntax for your if statement. Okay? So you have the if and then your condition. Okay, so the condition is what we are seeing over here. That's the blue line. That's the condition. Okay, so the condition is what we are seeing as number or NO1 is greater than NO2 because we've declared NO1 and then we've declared NO2. Okay, so the if else statement or the if condition is saying that if the condition, okay, if the condition is true, if truly N01 is greater than N02, then it should execute a statement. Okay, and that statement is what we have here. It should execute that statement. Now, after executing it, you end your if statement by doing end if. Okay, like I said last week, in VB.NET, we are not using your curly brackets over there. This curly brackets means the opening and the closing of your statement. Okay, but VB.NET, we don't use the curly bracket, so we always use the end if, okay, the end sub, and then the end model. Okay. All right, so there's another example here. I think this was something I was trying to explain earlier in the when we're talking about the if operator. So conditional operators, they have the if operator. Okay. So I'll end on the conditionals. We'll do the loops next week when we meet face to face, so that we can understand the ifs and the conditionals very well. Okay. So we have the if operator. Okay, so the if operator, it says here, if a condition, okay, is greater than the value, then true, else false. So this is the syntax. Okay. Now I said we can use the if operator instead of if then else statement. Okay. So a typical example has been given to us down here. Okay. So two statements written in the same context. Okay. So we have the first one here. We have the second one here. Okay. So it says here that if 10 is greater than 9, then show a message box. Then what? Message box. So a message box should just pop up. A message box is simply a dialog box. We've learned this from last semester. Okay, it should pop up and say what? True. Okay. So if 10 is greater than 9, then message box what? True. Else. So you can see how the else is. So after that it comes to else. Else means that 9 is rather greater than what? 10, or is 9 greater than 10? If else is true, then we should print what? False. Then after all that, we end the if. Okay. Now it's showing us another way of writing the same statement. Okay. So we know the message box here is the one performing the function, okay, performing that operation. So like we saw from here, the operators, the if operator, okay. So console.writeLine if a is greater than or equal to 0, prints positive or negative. Okay. So likewise, this particular one, we are using the message box since that's what we want to print out. So the message box comes first, and then we say that if 10 is greater than 2, okay, then it should print what's true. So the same as this, else false. Okay, now you can see here that it didn't use the else in this particular statement. There was no use of else. Okay, but the else is being handled. It's being handled. Okay, it's being handled here.
It's just similar to grading
And the
system.
false. Okay. The else is being handled here. Okay. So this is another way of writing your if-else statement. Okay. So it says here that if if uses the short circuit evaluation, which means that it will only evaluate the argument it uses. If the condition is false, the nullable, or is a nullable that is nothing, the first alternative will not be executed. That's the true will not be executed. And none of its side effects will be observed. This is effectively the same as C#'s ternary operator in the form of condition A is to B. Okay. So that is how the if and the if else conditions work. Okay. Now the else if will also come in. Okay, that means if you have more than maybe two conditions you want to work with, that's where you do the if else if. So let me see if there's an example here. If then else. Okay, this is the if then else. There's no example. Okay, so basically the if then else, and the if then else if then else would work in the context where we have maybe if, so if maybe 10 is greater than 9, then we write a statement here. Then maybe we have another condition. So we'll say else if, let's say 10 is greater than 8, then we introduce another statement, and then finally we can say else. Introduce a statement, then in all, we are going to end if. Okay. In all, you end the if. So you can see here, we have one condition, we have another condition. Okay. So if none of these condition is met, then it executes what happens in the if. But at the end of it all, it's going to do what? You need to end the code with your end if. Okay. Then this is how you introduce the else if into the condition. All right, so let's look at the select case, then we can call it a day. All right, so I have an example here on the select case. So we know the select case in Java and C++, we know it to be the switch case. Okay. And the context is the same as the VB.NET. Okay, so it says write a program to display the name, the days using the select case. Okay, and this, if you go back to, I think, your C++ or Java 1 handout, a similar example is there. Okay. I remember last time what I used to do with this course was I'll put the Java or the C++ code there, and I'll ask them to translate that code into VB.NET. Okay, so in doing all this, you are just teaching you how you can, on your own, also learn a programming language. For instance, we've taught you Java, we've taught you C++. Okay, so with the knowledge of those concepts and those logic, how can you take how can you also study a new programming language, like say Python? Okay. And the good thing too is that we've taught you like difficult programming languages already. One of the most difficult ones is C++. So with that knowledge of Java, okay, it should be easy using the logic, the concept of those languages to learn a new language on your own. Okay. So in this regards, let's look at this code. We want to display the day's name using select case. Okay. So introduce the model, introduce our submain, introduce a comment which says declare the local variable. Last week, we talked about the local scope, global scope, and then the model scope. I hope you remember. Okay. So we are doing a declaration of a local variable. This is a local scope. And the local scope always happens inside your submain. Okay. So the local scope declaration, so we say dim days are string. We declare the days as string. And we said days is equal to Thursday. Okay. Then we do select case day. Okay. In Java, we would have said switch. And then we put what? Expression there. Okay. So maybe Thursday or something, or days. We say switch. Or we switch into brackets days. That's what we would have done in Java or C++. Okay. Then the case. So the case, that means if this case matches the value of days, which is Thursday. Okay. If this case matches it, then what? It will say today is Monday. Okay. If it doesn't match, it moves to the next case, until it gets to the case that actually matches it. Okay. And then tell you that what? Today is Thursday. Okay. So there's similar flow. It's a similar flow. Okay. Now, unlike Java and C++, we know that anytime you use the select case, the switch case in Java and C++, at the end you have what? You have what do we have at the end? Who can tell me? When you use the switch case, before you end your switch case.
Default.
Yes, default, yeah, thank you. So you see default at the end. So the default means that what? None of the above cases were met. Okay, so it should do the default. But in VB.NET, it uses case else. Case what? Else. So if tried Monday, Tuesday, Wednesday, Thursday, all the way to Sunday, and then it says case else, that's the same as used doing the default. Okay, so none of the above cases were satisfied. So it uses the else, and then it prints that what you typed something wrong. And at the end, we started the select, and then we end the select. Please, you get the concept.
Yes, sir.
Yeah.
Yes.
Okay. So it's very simple. So you should be able to go to your C++ notes or your Java lecture notes and see if you can replicate some of the codes in there. Because I designed the lecture notes, I try to bring up the same old examples that we know. Okay, so that we can easily relate to the concept. And this is an example we've done in, I think, either Java or C++, level 100. So it's the same thing we are seeing here. Okay. All right. Any questions? What we've done so far? Any questions?
No, sir.
All right, so David, your hand is up. Ashon.
Yes, sir.
Sir,
Yes.
please, with the select case, you see when you taught us the switch case, after every case there was to be a break.
Thank you.
Why is it that this one there is no break?
Yes, so VB.NET also has its unique syntax or keywords. Okay, I quite remember we went through some of the keywords, I think last week or so. It should be somewhere here. Yes. Okay. So you can tell from here that they don't have that break or continue as a keyword. Okay, there's continue here. Okay. But the break is not there. So it means that with VB.NET, it automatically handles that inside the select case. Okay. So once it's satisfied, it doesn't need to move, or once that condition is met, it doesn't need to move to the next case. It just stops there. So if it is Thursday and Thursday is the same as the days, it will execute this and then end the select. Okay. So that's a good observation. Any other question?